Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the Brewers, consistently fail to meet expectations. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, does Pacoda love us like it loves the Brewers?
It should now.
Yeah.
And this week we are going to be talking about the Cardinals clinching the Central Division, Albert Pujols hitting 700 home runs, and a bunch of other stuff that's just not nearly as important as those two things. If you have an idea for the opening joke, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Ben,
Nate.
Hambone,
Yo.
it's been
It's been.
it, it's been a a wild season, an
Yeah.
emotional season,
Uh-huh.
maybe one of my favorite seasons that we've had as Cardinal fans in a very long time, if not
Since Albert
ever.
left? Yeah.
Yeah. And here we are.
Yeah.
It is September 28th, middle of the day Wednesday. And though there's an entire week left of games, it will not matter in any real way for the St. Louis Cardinals because they have clinched the Central at 90 games with a win over the Brewers last night. How you feeling?
I feel great, Nate.
Yeah,
Nate, I feel great.
we
Even
did it.
late. I
I
feel like
I
I
did
did
it.
it. Yeah. I feel like I really did it.
Yeah.
Did I think I'm still in a little bit of shock right now. It was kind of, I don't want to say it was easy because, as you were mentioning, this season has been up and down. There have been good parts and bad parts. There was a part before getting Quintana and Montgomery where was wanting to take a break from watching Cardinals baseball because of, everything was
Yeah.
just so haggard, and it was just they were playing bad ball for probably a month and a half. Um, but then it ended up being kind of easy, and I guess when you get super duper hot after the All-Star break, that's kind of how things happen when you have two MVP candidates. When you have resurgent elders, when you have young guys kind of coming out of nowhere. Um, we've talked about the team makeup a lot this season, and I don't know, like if you go back to our early episodes where we're talking about, bold predictions and how we think things are going to go, and even our most cardinal red glasses looking through, I don't think you could have asked for the season that, Paul and or Goldy and Nato had, the season that Albert had, the late resurgence that Yadier Molina had, that he actually became a valuable player somehow in the last month and a half of the season. Newt Bar being a real factor.
Or how
Um,
about we've talked a lot about him a lot this season, both ups and downs, but Tommy Edman right there as far as
yeah,
WAR, and we are big believers in the usefulness and the legitimacy of WAR, of FWAR, and he's over 6, which is an MVP level season.
yeah,
He's not that far behind Goldie and Arenado. And in fact, the Cardinals are the first team in baseball since 2011 for there to be 3 6 F4 players or more on a team,
yeah.
which is pretty incredible. It hasn't happened in a decade. And it's Goldie, Arenado, and Tommy Edman. And then, yeah, all the other stories you talked about. I mean, we're not the first to report on this. This has been kind of the story of the season, especially this last 2 months as these milestones actually started being hit. But this has been a really fun and interesting blend of history and youthfulness and some heartbreak and some, things not going the way we wanted them to. I mean, just look at the outfield right now for, you know, to really start that conversation. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, in L Central, not the best team in the NL, but top 4, top 5 and headed to the playoffs. And, it's hard to really ask for much more or really expect much more from how this front office builds their teams and how this team goes about it.
It's so funny, like the beginning of the season, you kind of have expectations for how the team is going to be built. Or I guess what I mean to say is the team is kind of set up in spring training. You kind of see jobs being won or lost, and lineups kind of figuring themselves out. And you kind of, even though it doesn't really work this way very often, you're kind of like, all right, here's our squad. Let's go do this for 6 months. And then, yeah, exactly what you're talking about. We thought Tommy Edman was in danger of losing a job. Like you said, he's not going to win the MVP because some of the other Cardinals players, but he's a part of the conversation. He's in the top 15, I think, of position players on either league this year. Brendan Donovan has become a massive factor. Ryan Helsley could be the second best reliever in baseball. Maybe
Yeah.
even, I mean, there are some nights where he's the best. There's some nights where he's the best player in baseball. It is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I think like the fact that Dylan Carlson was not a non-factor, but not as much as I think you and I both expected him.
Right.
And then Harrison Bader is just not a Cardinal anymore. It's just wild how this 6 months can it's almost like, a snowball rolling down the hill. And then you look at the end of it and the snowball is disfigured, misshapen, massive. It's
Yeah.
completely different than what we started with, but still we're here.
Yeah, Carlson not having the season any of us expected, but also essentially promoted and identified as starting center fielder for the foreseeable future. Like did not see that coming. I would have expected the story of Carlson this year to be his bat. Of course, that said, seeing some signs of life recently, so hopefully he can carry that into the postseason. But yeah, I mean, we could just talk all day. We could do an entire episode about just surprises and unexpected outcomes, good and bad, from the regular season. And I think we'll do some sort of retrospect on the season once we get into the off season. But I think for now it's just a time to celebrate, enjoy. I did want to thank all of our listeners who've been with us either from the beginning or you hopped on board
Oh,
sometime through the season. Like this has been fun for us because of you all too.
So I second that, but that you just stirred something in my mind that was really funny. So Mary and I were out at our favorite spot, Esther's, last night, and I said,
Wow.
"Hey, waiter person, can you please put on the game?" And they did, which was very kind. And the Cardinals
Nice.
won. They locked it up, and I think so. Nate and I share the Twitter account that is the Talking About Birds account, and within I think it was a minute of each other, I tweeted, "Yay, let's get fucked up" or something like that, and then you tweeted a very heartfelt thank you to the listeners. And it's just like, what a good little juxtaposition. It made me
Yeah,
laugh quite a bit. And I will say, I don't want to gripe on Twitter likes publicly, but I feel like I need to. Uh, your tweet got a lot more approval than my tweet. And I take that extremely personally. But I'll find a way.
I don't know. Be better. Be best, Ben.
I thought it was a
Um,
good sentiment. I ordered another drink and I thought who else is doing this? The boys are drinking and they're chugging their Budweisers and they're did you see all the high noons that were going around? I thought
there's a
like
lot of high
the
noons.
luck, what are you guys doing? You gotta drink the king of beers or some
Well, they're
champagne.
in Milwaukee though,
Yeah.
so I have to imagine that's part of it. But you would think they would truck in
I
some
imagine the Cardinals
Budweiser.
just travel around with pallets of Budweiser in the plane at all
Yeah,
times. And another beer focused moment that I thought was hilarious. There was a clip going around from I think it was Newt was coming after Wainwright with a couple of Coors banquets, those full bodied Coors that I enjoy so much. And he goes, don't pour the Coors originals on me. Don't pour the Coors originals on me. I like those. I like those. And then Newt, went on
of
to
course.
douse him, of course, with 60 ounces of beer or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hey, don't get me wrong, I was imbibing myself. So I had
Yeah.
a great time watching those guys have a great time. We talked about it last week. I definitely made sure to watch it. I think it's
Yeah.
it's kind of cathartic. You spend the whole season watching these ding dongs and to finally get to see them sort of unleash a little bit and
Yeah.
just be people and have fun and actually smile and laugh was really nice. And did you watch the like Marmal's speech and all of that as well?
Yeah, so I went back once we got home from the bar. I went back and I basically just put the broadcast back on and watched all that post game stuff. Although I
Yeah.
will admit I did fast forward through Rick and Al and Alexa Dat's stuff because that was just like
That's not what I want to watch. Yeah, and
no.
I what is Rick Ankiel? Is he coming in on a like his laptop from 2005? Like
I,
it's too zoomed in. He's blurry and scratchy. Like, where are you right now?
so if memory serves, I think he lives around Jupiter, but like the point that needs to be made is we're two dumbasses. We don't have near as much money as Rick, and our video looks 10 times better than his. How
I
is
can't
that
I
possible?
don't yeah, I can't believe Bali Sports isn't like, "Hey, here, here's your"
Yes.
whatever it is. It's so funny to me. It looks so bad. I actually appreciate it. I like to think that he is, like, silently protesting something, like, I don't know. I think it's hilarious that
I
he can get away with it.
See, I find it like I find it very frustrating and hard to watch. I like have trouble watching like we're big Top Chef fans over here, and
Yeah.
Top Chef started like 20 years ago in like standard def, and I even have problems watching stuff from like the late 90s, early 2000s because so
Wow. Must be pretty lonely there in your tower.
yeah, I have multiple streaming services and a nice
Yeah.
television. What can I say?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. And yeah, I mean, I was like
it irks
doing
me.
other things while not that I really have any problem with those three. We make fun of Al Roboski forever, but they're fine. They're all doing their job. But what I really want to see is the party and the interviews and the cat down there
Yeah,
getting soaked. That was great. I love Marmal's speech. I thought it was, is straightforward. It's kind of what you
yeah,
expect from him. But he was like, there's two things that I've got left. And he said, first, Arenado, we finally got you your division championship. How do you feel? And I guess it had become almost like a meme in the dugout. We learned a little bit more about it as the night went on, that like people had been kind of giving him shit for never winning a division, and
yeah, yeah,
and this was the time to do it. But at first I was like, this is Marmol being like, hey buddy, like, you're not opting out, right? Let's all look at Arenado first and say, like, we did it, and there's nowhere else that you'd
yeah.
rather be, right? You're not gonna opt out, right? All right. And then let's have Pujols talk. And they all basically say the same thing, but it's all nice and fun to see.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Arenado opting out right now because we're in such a good spot with
Yeah.
Albert and the team and everything like that. But I want to couch that conversation for later. I know we've talked about it a little bit already this season, but I don't think people want to hear that right now. I definitely
Yeah.
don't want to hear it right now. But
No.
yeah, I hope he sticks around.
Same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I feel like I've said a lot of fun like 90 times already on this episode, but I'm
It's funny because we've watched these things and they're all the same, right? And we've been lucky enough to watch like 20 of them in the 2020s. We've
yeah,
been very spoiled. I think actually we've watched like 15 of them in the 2020s sorry,
right.
from 2000 until now. Um, and I'm the same with you, and I assume most of the people who are listening feel this way. But I just love it, like you said, seeing the very serious, hardcore competitors let loose, and you kind of get to see their personality. I just sit there and smile. It like truly joys me. And then you see, like, I just feel like you get to see the interpersonal relationships a little bit more. I think, Katie Wu was interviewing Arenado and it was maybe a minute and a half long interview, 2 minute long interview. And I think Newt poured beer on Arenado like 6 times. And
Yeah.
at the last time he was like, again, are you kidding me? And then
Yeah.
turned around to like shoo him away. And, you just kind of get, they always talk about being family and what the clubhouse environment is like and being able to actually see inside of that and see that they are, brothers and friends and they get on
Well,
each other's nerves and that
he
kind of
first was
playfulness.
like enough already. He, like,
Yeah.
kinda, like, snapped a little bit. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, alright, like, there it is." Like, that
Yeah.
he is an intense person, and then, you could tell by, yeah, number 6, he'd kinda gone full circle and was back to finding it funny, but I was
Well,
like he seemed, like, legitimately annoyed by it for a second, which I thought was hilarious.
yeah. Yeah, and I kinda take that to be like, the people who are you are closest with, you are comfortable with, like, telling them
Right.
to, like, "Seriously, stop it, or I'm
Stop
gonna hit you,"
stop. Yeah.
That is it is I think it's 2 things. It's a sign of how intense Nolan is,
You're
and
right.
it's a sign of how close, they feel towards each other that they can, I don't know, be like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we've got another week of games, and we're gonna talk about some of the current status of the Cardinals and how they've been playing here in a minute. But we really wanted to start out just by talking about how
Yeah,
nice this is and what a ride it's been and how fun it's been, and again to
and
have the show and do this with everybody. It's been a ton of fun.
yeah, and I guess we're watching Phillies and Brewers games now.
Yeah, right. So, still odds are Phillies, but it's 7, 8 games. Anything could happen.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be a crazy surprise if the Brewers flip it and the Cardinals are playing the Brewers. Honestly, I think I'd prefer that at this point, to play the Brewers over the Phillies. The Phillies have been looking generally pretty good, and I think they have that higher end talent, but you can't really pick your poison. So,
yeah. Well, you
uh,
got to think in a 3-game series. I think realistically, the or 30,000-foot view, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and Corbin Burns and Woodruff or whoever would be number 2 are pretty 1-to-1. I guess Burns over Nola and Wheeler over whoever the Brewers. But I mean, it's pretty much 1-to-1. So when you
yeah,
break it down, it's like, oh yeah, the Phillies, while they have lots and lots of problems, they still have JT Realmuto. They still have Reese Hoskins, who can hit the ball over the wall. Bryce Harper is back. Kyle Schwarber is leading the National League in home runs. I think that they are the team that has a bit of a higher talent floor for sure on the position player side. And I think I generally agree with your sentiment. There's also a little bit of unknown. Like we've watched 20 games almost with the Brewers this year, and we've only seen the Phillies a little bit. So I think there's part of
right,
that too.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I I do not underestimate the top end of the Phillies position player group. Is I guess what I'm trying to
right,
say.
yeah. It's Bryce Harper. You know, he's not been great since coming back from injury, but anything can happen in a 3 game series, and the Cardinals have been on the wrong side of Schwarber in the playoffs as well. So,
Yes, yes, they have.
yeah, and like you said, Real Muto, Hoskins, Sosa, he's playing pretty well for them.
He has,
There's
yeah.
so so we'll
I
see.
was I know. I was kind of like, immediately my brain went to, all right, how are the Phillies doing? So I went and was kind of digging through their numbers last night after like watching some of the stuff, and I was shocked at how good of a year Real Muto was having. And I feel like he's just like, maybe we just expect it of him now. He just is going to be
Yeah,
the best catcher in baseball and put up huge numbers and steal. He's got 19 stolen bases, no caught stealing. He's like getting to be underrated almost. I feel like we just
yeah.
don't give him enough credit. But he scares me in a 3-game series.
Yeah, they have enough guys that can beat you, and the Brewers right now, it's like, all right, Adames looks like a star. Um, After that, it starts to just
Yeah,
really
like
quickly fall apart.
what do you do? Like avoid Rowdy, and we seems like the Cardinals can pitch to Christian Yelich now, who's been
Yeah,
essentially a
and
league
run on
average
him.
player. Yeah. Oh my God, that throw last night!
Yeah,
I knew that Christian Yelich wasn't really known for his defense. I feel like he's definitely gone down from his days playing center field with Miami. But that throw last
it was
night,
bad.
oh my God, noodle arm!
Yeah,
I don't really think I could throw better than that, but that was bad.
you
And maybe
could
a little bit,
you
I think I
could
can throw better than that.
you could make a throw better than that. Now,
Yes.
whether you would consistently make throws better than a professional baseball player, probably not. But
I think you're
y
underestimating my talent.
yikes. You could also throw a football over that mountain, I'm
Oh,
sure of it. Yeah. You played high school, I get it, you were just a few steps away from the majors.
oh, yeah, I was on the door. I thought I would spare, my friends and family from that lifestyle, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
You're what a kind heart
Thank
you
you.
have.
Thank you.
Um, well, we have another, big milestone to celebrate though,
Yeah.
which happened first, but I thought it made most sense to start with the clinch, but, I would argue was way less likely of a thing to happen this year than the Cardinals winning the Central,
Yeah, far and
uh,
away.
was, Albert Pujols hit both 699 and 700 on Apple TV's Friday Night Baseball.
What a waste.
Yeah, I mean, it's free. I think most people were able to watch it if they wanted to, but the ultimately, I was more upset or sad for Dan McLaughlin,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. But all that aside, I mean, what an incredible accomplishment. I mean, we've been filling our tanks on old man smiles all season, but Pujols rounding the bases on that 700, that might be
Yeah.
the happiest we've ever seen him.
So, a question for you, and I think this is somewhat controversial, maybe not. Do you so I definitely have a strong opinion about the Phil Bickford home run, but did Andrew Heaney groove that pitch for Albert? Do you believe Andrew Heaney grooved that pitch for Albert?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, you know, it certainly was where you would put one if you're grooving one,
The only
but
reason I even throw that out there is because if you go back and watch that at bat, there were two. He crushed one of them, but there was another hanging ball that was breaking ball that was right in the center of the plate that Albert did not swing at. Um, and I don't think it wasn't like super duper obvious. And Andrew Heaney is not like a Max Scherzer, he's not like a super duper ace or anything like that. He's not somebody who can put the ball where he wants every single time. But I was just want it really sat there on a plate for him, and Albert destroyed it. The
yeah.
relationship with the Dodgers last year, I would not. Did you? Dave Roberts got out of his chair and cheered for it for
Yeah.
about 5 seconds, and then I
And
think he
then he
kind of
was like
realized what the look was. Yeah, he's like, "Oh wait,
yeah, I saw that too. He's like, oh,
yeah."
shucks," Yeah.
And,
Yeah, all the very light clapping from all the Dodgers,
yeah.
who definitely wanted to be probably out on the field with him too,
Oh
but
yeah.
you have to feign some degree of competitiveness even though it's like the Dodgers don't have anything to play for at this point.
Right. Yeah, and we've all heard the stories about the relationship that even in a short amount of time, him and Kershaw and Mookie are very close after that, half season they spent together.
Yeah.
Now that being said, the Phil Bickford home run, it wasn't the best breaking ball he's ever thrown, but it was like an inch off the plate inside. I mean, it wasn't an easy to hit pitch. And Albert, I mean, he
Yeah.
just, what he did, Nate, is he opened those hips and let those hands fly through the zone. And I loved it. Oh, it was so
It
much
was
fun.
and, off a righty.
Off a righty.
I was sitting there thinking like, no way he's getting 700 tonight. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
he's not gonna get any more at bats against lefties. Bickford is not bad. Like, I was like, maybe the Kershaw thing tomorrow. We might not even see 700 this weekend. The
Oh, yeah.
the the Dodgers are pretty good, and all of that was going through my mind. And then he hit 700. Oh yeah, he crushed it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good pitch, or at least not a bad pitch. Pretty remarkable. He was just jacked up and ready to get it done, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, jacked up and get it done. Then I think he gets taken out of the game shortly after that, and then Burleson comes in and hits a home run in his
Yeah,
spot,
yeah,
which I thought was pretty great.
and fun for him, his first career home run. So
Yeah,
that was a good one.
was that off
He's a big.
Hanser Alberto? Was it? It
I
was off a
think
position player, right?
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a big
funny.
boy.
Burleson kind of looks like a softball player, and he kind of hit his first major league home run was a kind of a softball home run.
Yeah, he's got a big beer league vibes going
Yeah,
from Burleson. But yeah, I mean, truly incredible. What he hit 17 since July 10th or something like that. It went from I think it's Fangraphs was doing the sort of statistical probability of Pujols hitting 700 this year, and it was down into the single digits or low double digits, and it just went up from there and up from
yeah.
there. And all it took was Pujols being one of the best hitters in baseball for an entire 2 month period, which uh, did not see that coming. And now I guess can we go back to kind of what I think was the key to his success, which is giving him ample rest? And he was definitely getting a lot of at bats there in order to
Yeah.
get there, which I think was great. I loved him batting in the 2 hole. Like, it was clearly Marmal's just like, get him out there as much as we can to get those at bats. I love that for
I
him. And
I think that's a great thing to bring up too. I think like Marmol's handling of all of these situations, the Albert situation, the closing up the division situation, the Yachty and Waino, I mean, all of these things kind of going on. I think that Ali Marmol deserves a lot of credit for
yeah,
handling it in a way that makes sense generally. Like Pujols got his AB. Like this doesn't happen without Ali Marmol buying in and obviously Pujols
right.
performing. Um, but
It's
kind of
also a lot
wild.
easier to put him in the 2 hole when he's also been one of your best hitters. So it works out, but there was definitely a sort of stray from the normal usage
Yeah,
of Pujols in the last couple weeks, which was a clear. I mean, he was directly saying it. He said, we want to get him in there and get as many at bats for him as possible against
sure.
this lefty or whatever. And I think it's great. It was classic Marmol. He was just very direct in saying what he was doing and why he was doing it. And yeah, and we heard a lot about it. I mean, we've been hearing all about it all season, but we heard a
Right.
lot about it in the like clinching speeches and whatnot, that despite all the individual history that happened this season, it still was a team win. And I don't know that he'll win manager of the year, but I have to imagine that he's one of the front runners for it. I mean, it usually goes to a manager who wins their division that no one expected them to. Like, that's a big usually it's something like that, right? There's some narrative
Yeah,
about cut. So
I'm kinda
maybe
looking and I feel like if we're just to go down that rabbit hole for a second, like, I feel like the Buck Showalter narrative, writers will like because he came in and he straightened out the Mets, let alone they
right.
spent like $400,000,000 in the offseason, but Buck Showalter came in there and showed the Mets how to win.
I
A
I think he's likely going to win it over
Yeah.
Marmol. I think
I think
but
look at I think Brian Snicker would be an option for that as well. They had a
yeah,
really bad first like 2 months and now they have 97 wins.
yeah.
And then probably Bob Melvin is in that conversation as well cuz he came in and turned the Padres around and showed them how to win and he can manage Manny and he can manage Ha-Sung Kim. He can really, reach across the aisle or wait, that's politics. But all these
He,
the manager of the
yeah.
year thing is kind of stupid as I'm going through this little
Well, of
exercise.
course, of
Yeah.
course. It's always, they had a good team, and
Yeah.
whoever basically, and that's why it's usually a narrative thing. What team overcame the
Yeah.
most issues or uh expectations is going to be the manager that wins
Yeah.
it. And I think that's where Marmal's if he wins it, it would
Yeah.
be that the Brewers were expected to win the division, and instead the Cardinals did, and set all these individual milestones, and probably have the MVP, and probably have a top rookie of the year candidate, and have both, so the three oldest players in the NL, and then also the young guys and rookie of the year candidates. So like, that's his narrative to win it. But I do think it'll probably end up being with the Mets, just because of all of the Mets stuff and how unlikely it is ever for the Mets to be successful, and they're having, a good
Yeah,
year, so
yeah,
I bet it'll be that. But hey, we'll do a full on I think next week we're gonna really dig into postseason expectations, predictions,
yeah,
and I think maybe we'll do some end of year award predictions as well. Might as
yeah,
well. So
yeah.
uh
All right. So should we start recording the real episode now?
I guess so. Yeah. So we do have some
Have we been
new.
recording?
Oh, I forgot to.
Oh shit.
It's all right. Yeah.
No.
We do have some actual more on the field style stuff to talk about. The season's not done yet. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're actually going to start on a slightly sour note after all of that fun and success. I'm going to turn it to you, Ben.
Oh wow.
Are you worried about Arenado and Goldschmidt?
No. I am not worried. And I can talk about that at length, Nathan. And actually I will. Um
Okay.
But
Go on,
I did
Governor.
think it was worth talking about, and I think this sour flavor goes down a little easier with the sweetness of the NL Central wins. I think it's a good time to talk about this. But Nolan has had a 222, 292, 358 with a WRC plus of 88 in the month of September. Goldie 224, 322, 382 with the WRC plus of 105. Crazy that we are talking about Paul Goldschmidt having a down month, and it's still an above
Still
average
above
WRC
average.
plus. That is
Yeah.
how good he is. And I think it's worth bringing up because I think it explains why the team has looked the way the team has looked pretty, or, that the offensive engine is not moving right now. And that can be frustrating, even though we just won. And we're feeling really good about that. But I think it's important to point out, like, I think the reason that I'm not worried about Nolan, even though those numbers are you know, bad after a really, really great season is that even looking at the war, however you want to break it down, looking at the war, defensive war, whatever it is, he still is so unbelievably value on the defensive side that Nolan could hit like this for a whole year and he would still put up positive production. He is just that good of a defender and he has other aspects to his game that make him a positive player. So I'm not really worried about Nolan. I will say I do trust Nolan's bat less than I trust Goldie's, and that's kind of where I'm getting to with the Goldie of it all. Is that I think of any, I mean, he is one of the best hitters of the generation. He's a generational guy. I think he will figure it out. We saw him loop a couple of soft hits last night. I think it's just it's going to go. He's allowed to have a down month, and especially when you're in the position that they're in, it makes it all go down smoother, like I was getting at earlier. But it needs to kind of turn around now. And it makes me wonder how Ali or what is the right way to utilize these two players in the final week plus of the season. Do you opt for keeping them fresh? Do they take multiple days off? Do you want them to get at bats so they can find their timing a little bit more? What is the way to handle that? There's also, like, to kind of backpedal on that whole point. There's very little information that says people in the season hot take that into the playoffs. It generally is a reset button.
Yeah.
Even if you have the hottest September of your career, rarely does that translate into October success.
There's no consistent statistical
Dude,
evidence consistent statistical evidence to suggest that any condition at the end of the season will set you up for any other type of condition in the playoffs. So,
right.
um, I think it's more fun and like relieving for us as fans for our players to end the season hot, but it really doesn't mean anything as far as predicting postseason performance. So I echo your sentiment. I'm not really worried. Besides all the things that you said, like this is just how baseball goes, and Goldie had a 5 month stretch of being the best hitter in the league, and so it would have been tight for it to never end and him win the Triple Crown, but
Yeah.
that was never the most likely thing. And instead, he's just going to end with a measly MVP award, you know? And we just have to hope that he is able to execute in the playoffs. And we have to hope that Arenado returns to his form that we've seen also for nearly a decade. And I don't know. As far as usage goes, like I think probably I haven't seen the lineup for tonight's game. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but I suspect most of these guys will be out. That's the standard for
The
the
old
day
guys are all
after.
hungover today. Yeah.
Yeah. So get at least an extra day rest there, and then 6 games against the Pirates to close out the season. I'd suspect at least an extra day of rest for each of the main starters. And then you have the day off in between the end of the season and the wild card starting. So I would think it'll be like slightly more rest than they would get if it was a still a playoff hunt, but
Yeah.
not any out of the ordinary or like excessive.
Yeah. Well,
And yeah, just work on timing and hope you can square up against some of the best pitchers in baseball because that's what the playoffs uh,
yeah,
is.
that's what the playoffs is. Yeah, it's wild that Paul has had a month like with the slash line that I just quoted and is still pretty much easily the MVP for the season. That just speaks to like kind of
Yeah,
what you're talking about.
he's falling into like instead of leading the league in every offensive category, he's fallen into more like he's top 3 or top 5 in every single category, but he's still leading the league in OPS and by a pretty good amount. And I think like to me that is one of the most true statistics of like offensive production, and he's leading the league in that.
Yeah.
And the narrative has been all about him. No other guy, even though he has slowed down, it's not like any other guy in this race has really exploded this September to change the story at all. So I think he's going to win it, and I think it's going to be not super close, and then it'll be like some blend of Arenado, Betts, Freeman, and Machado will make
Yeah.
up the next top 5. Um, I would be shocked if it's anything other than that.
Freddie Freeman only has 20 home runs this year.
Right. That's the thing. There's sort of a knock against everyone. Maybe not Mookie Betts. I mean, he's having a killer season, but he's got a lot of similar counting stats as Goldy, but Goldy's got him by like 40 points of batting average, So like for each one of these guys that would make a good argument against Goldy, he leads any individual player like
Yeah.
on most every stat. So
I personally would vote for Paul Goldschmidt.
same. Give us a
So,
vote. I think they
yeah.
should give us. I'm waiting. When do podcasters, especially tiny podcasters, when do we get a BBWA credentials?
I am probably wrong on this, but I think you just have to apply and prove.
Mm,
I don't know
I
if you actually need to write or not, though. I don't know
I don't know
what
that you
the
have to write anymore. I think you because that's some of the bullshit about the whole Hall of Fame voting thing is
yeah.
that like a bunch of dudes who like haven't really written in 20 years or something like that are still voting. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know
We
one of the voters who turned in a blank ballot last year was he's like been writing for on the PGA Tour for like 20 years or something like that.
Yeah,
Very
cool,
stupid.
helpful.
Yeah,
Um, well, let's talk about the pitching. So, I mean, the Cardinal offense and the Cardinal playoffs is gonna like they're gonna be won on the back of Goldie and Arenado. If they're gonna go deep, any individual series, of course, could go in any direction. But
sure.
if they're gonna really go deep with both those guys, or at least one of them, we're gonna have to really turn it on. And all we can do is hope and assume that they will. The pitching has been interesting in September as well, some good and some bad. What do you want to start with? You want the good or the bad
Well,
first?
let's start with the bad because then the good will be a little easier. But I think we're not the first ones to talk about it. Waino's arm is dead. He has said it. He looks it. He's got a 6.38 ERA in September. I think he's striking out on, he's not a big strikeout guy to begin with, but I think he's striking out around like 3 per 9, which is about 4 or 5 off of what he normally does. Yeah, I mean, he's looked bad. I don't know, it's not the first time Waino's dealt with this. It won't be the last since he's going to pitch another 5 years or whatever. And obviously, Ollie and Waino and the staff know more than us. I still think that he should have a little extra time off, and I think that I think I value time off in general, especially for players over 30. So I think I'd like to see a little bit of that in the
Well,
final
did
week.
you see Marmal's discussion about dead arm though?
Yeah,
Uh, did a full interview about it and was asked about Wainwright and like what they're going to do with him. And according to them, they all believe, and I have no reason to doubt them, although I am a professional medical expert, that the best way to deal with dead arm, even though this sounds counterproductive, is that you really want to pitch through it. It's more about regaining your feel and less about like recovering broken down muscle mass, you know?
sure.
So, they don't really intend to give him any additional rest, although I think we'll see what that looks like here. He's supposed to pitch on Sunday, and that'll likely be his last start, so it kinda all works out anyway. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they're giving any sort of additional rest, but
Yeah.
it's a like a considered decision. I will say at this point, I don't think he's one of the starters in the 3-game series, at
He
least.
can't be. He cannot
Yeah,
be. I mean, I guess unless his final start is lights out, and he's got, he's got the ride and the run back and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think like again, they're not like they're gonna listen to this anyways. But if I had it my way, I think I would, give him a day off. He has a long bullpen that day, and he can still pitch a little bit, but obviously the numbers don't matter anymore. So if they think the right path is for him to pitch in a big league game and try to figure it out, then I guess that's what they're going to do.
yeah,
I just have to go back to some of the numbers we were talking about last week when, he's got the second most innings pitched since 2020. He's obviously much older than everybody else on that list. By the way, Sandy Alcantara had another 8 inning start this week. He is just
dudes.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
He gave up one run, and lost the game because the Marlins suck. What are the Marlins doing? We
yeah,
don't need to talk about this right now, but
yeah.
they suck. But anyways, yeah, I hope I don't I Waino being a part of the playoff picture and impactful in the playoffs would be very good. Whether he is coming out of the bullpen, whether he is starting, whether he is, I don't know.
Pinch hitting.
Yeah, and he has versatility, mental toughness. He could come out and
You got
grab an
that
inning.
grit.
Yeah, yeah.
Cold
He's
beer on a
talking
Friday
about
night.
cold beer. He's talking about how it only takes him a handful of pitches to get ready. He could still come out of the bullpen if that's what
Yeah.
they see. So yeah, I don't know. A little bit worried. Like to see something change in his final start, but we'll
But
watch.
even if it does, it's against the Pirates. How much are
Right.
you gonna take from that? You know, when on the other hand, you've got what we saw Mikolas do last night, what Quintana continues to do and what Montgomery has, been able to do, or Flaherty. Like, I don't know. I think it was only last week where I was like, maybe it was 2 weeks ago where I said there's no way Waino is not one of the 3 starters. And now I'm completely on the other side of it. I think there's no
Right.
way he's one of the 3 starters. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Palante has been struggling a little bit as well, which is not great. Hopefully, you don't need a Palante too much in the playoffs, but it can happen, especially if maybe you do start a Wainwright. So,
Yeah.
I'd like to see him being a little bit more effective.
Yeah, I mean, he's just not striking people out right now for the past almost month, and he's getting hit around a little bit. And obviously, like he's a strikeout guy, he's a ground ball guy, so that's a little worrisome. And yeah, I think you're 100% right though. Like he's probably not on the wild card roster. Um, Maybe he is. Will he be used? Probably not. There, you would imagine. That's you're going to go to your best guys as often as possible in that 3-game series, hopefully 2-game series.
Kind of depends
But
on where you think about Dak Hudson in there. Who
yeah.
it's really that long man spot, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe that's Wainwright, right? I don't know.
Well, I think let's move on then and talk about some of the good. Dak Hud has been ridiculous since coming back and
Of
only pitching out
course.
of the bullpen, of
Yeah.
course. But he hasn't walked anybody. He hasn't given up a run. He's been great. Um, I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah.
He looks like Dakota Hudson. I can't visibly see anything, but he is become effective out of
Yeah.
nowhere, essentially.
And Zach Thompson. I mean, he looks like I've been excited about him for a long time. All of us have, and
Yeah.
we're seeing some of that reason why the excitement. He's doing what we thought Liberatore would be doing this year, but instead
Yeah.
it's Thompson. So you've got both those guys can fill that sort of mid long man role, and you can be more comfortable with it than Palante right now.
Yeah. That curveball seems to be extremely effective, and I just like him.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's got a competitiveness that I dig, and I don't know. I think he's fun to watch, and
Yeah.
he's been
Well, it's
productive.
it's guys like him that make me think, Quintana's not gonna get an option or a contract for next year because if Waino does come back, you really only have a spot or two in the rotation still available. And I just knowing the Cardinals, they I think would rather do those competitions between like Thompson and Liberatore and Woodford. And what we're seeing from Thompson is like, hell yeah, get him in the rotation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Gallegos has also been great in the second half of the season. I think that just
Yeah.
needs to be called out. Having essentially two closers is something that not a lot of teams can do, and we have two highly, highly effective closers that have different styles that I think is great. So just a little shout out for Gallegos. He deserves more love this season.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think the kind of coup de grace, the I was shocked to find these numbers, is I guess what I mean to say. But Jose Quintana, over his last 25 and a third innings, has a sub 1 ERA and a .36 walk rate. He has been absolutely fantastic. Um, does he start? Like, what do we do with that?
I think so at this point. I've had a total switch on all of this. I
No.
think I think Quintana should be one of the 3,
Yeah,
and I think Mikolas should, and then I'd be willing to hear an argument over the difference between Montgomery and Flaherty, and it'll kind of
yeah,
depend on what their next starts look like. But and the team makeup, I don't know the splits of the Phillies very well if they're better against lefties or righties, but I would imagine that will have a big hand in that decision. But I have a hard time right now starting anyone other than Quintana. Like,
yeah,
look at I mean the number you just threw over the last 25 innings, sub 1 ERA and a .36 walk. Like, what more are we looking for? Yeah, he doesn't
yeah,
necessarily go super deep into games, but we also have one of the best bullpens in baseball. Like, it's the perfect combo. That's like game one to me right there. Come out and just take the win against their starter, whoever it is, Zach Wheeler or whatever. You'll feel like you're
yeah.
stealing one because he threw Quintana, but he might actually be the best starter on the team right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's the Cardinals are in a weird space where I think that like exactly what you said is they will probably lean on matchups they like over the ace is going to be the ace because they
Right.
don't really have an ace. Like,
Right.
I guess Miles is maybe the closest thing to an ace over
Yeah.
the entire season if you look at the body of work, but they don't really
Well, and
have
if you
that.
think of if you think of one key aspect of your ace is that they'll go deep into the
Yeah,
game, then yeah, Michaelis is it easily.
yeah,
But he's not a big strikeout guy, which is the flip side of or is like the usually one of the other key pillars of an ace. Although last night, 9 strikeouts. So
he
I don't
looked
know.
great. Yeah,
He could do it every once in a while.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess I get probably by next episode it'll all be decided because we'll record again next Wednesday and that'll be the last game of the year. Most teams will have probably announced their um will likely know what the matchup will be,
right.
and most teams have announced their playoff rotations by then. So we won't really speculate it on it again. But that'll be I guess I'm locking in my guess right now is it's gonna be Quintana, Michaelis, and then I'll just say Montgomery, but I won't be surprised if it's Flaherty.
Yeah, yeah, I think it'll. Yeah, probably. I'll probably switch it up. I think it'll probably be Miles, Quintana, Montgomery.
Yeah,
Um, really curious to see how Jack and Waino fit into it, but yeah,
right.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I could see him doing Michaelis game one over Quintana. I'm not
Yeah,
too worried about that. But yeah. those 3 guys are who I suspect it'll be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got some more stuff to talk about, but before we do, as always, we want to remind all of our listeners that this show is supported on Patreon. If you like the show, want to see it grow, want to support us and the efforts that we're making to provide you this hot content, consider subscribing at patreon.com/slash talking about birds. Subscribers of any level get access to our private Discord. We call it the Bird Scored. Tweet. We're having a great time in there. We're keeping it running all year, all off season, through the playoffs. It's a great place to connect with other Cardinal fans. And
Well, Mary always says that there is no baseball offseason because of how I obsess over it. So I
yeah,
think that that'll be true in the bird scored.
there you go. There you go. Same. Mary always says that about me too. So, yeah, talking about or patreon.com/slash talking about birds. And also consider leaving us a review in your favorite podcast platform. It helps and it makes us feel good. So, thank you to everyone who has done both or either of those things. Ben, how about our online presence? Where can people find it?
Sounded so disingenuous. You
Ben,
you can make sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds, and as always, you can email us questions, thoughts, musings. Talkaboutbirds at gmail.com. And as you know, per usual, I like to angle something at Nate. Nate is doing some tailgating this weekend at the Mizzou game. So I think if you want to get a brat, get a dog, a couple of brewskis, go find Nate and his family tailgating at Mizzou this weekend. If you can't find him, email again, talkaboutbirds at gmail.com, and he will direct you to the parking spot and give you a free burger.
Some or all of that may be true. I will be there. It is my brother's 40th birthday.
Old
So
man.
old man. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do, relive our youth, huh? And, go down and do some tailgating, but we're doing it in style. It's like with one of those companies that like bring you a big old tent and coolers and it should be fun.
So, yeah, y'all should crash that for sure.
Yeah. Come on by. I'm not planning it.
There you go.
All right. So we have some other broader Cardinal news to talk about, and then we'll get into some league news and run out with a dumb game. So, first of all, Tyler O'Neill, who we both believe is pretty critical to the success of the Cardinals, is on a running program and is hoping to make it back from the 10-day IL before the end of the season. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him again this year and this regular season and he just starts in the playoffs. At least I guess I'm hopeful of that. I don't know. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a major league at bat or two before that happens, but obviously it depends on his health. I could even see them, activating him and having him be a DH for a game just to get 3 or 4 at bats, and I think I would feel better at that. But
Yeah.
obviously they're equipped to get his timing working outside of that. They have all the means that they need to make that happen. But would love to see him. Happy to see that he is running. He's doing baseball activities. Hopefully it is quick.
Nothing more anticlimactic than the update of they are participating in baseball activities.
I know that's so lame.
They're like changing scorecards and
Buying
uh
popcorn.
buying yeah,
Hmm.
paying extreme maintenance costs and whatnot for buying tickets on websites.
Yeah.
Baseball activities.
Baseball.
And other important piece, Jordan Hicks has begun a throwing program.
Uh,
Again,
Tuesday. Yeah,
yeah,
that started. So by the time
yeah,
this episode comes out, maybe we'll even know more.
yeah. Hopefully he's back.
Yeah.
That's all there is from a injury update. Any other broader Cardinal news you want to talk about?
I mean, not really. We talked about Alec Burleson already. I thought a funny quote from him that I wanted to read was after, he hit his home run, pinch hitting for Albert. he said, "I think that's the only way to to pinch hit for him right there, hit a homer." And
Yeah.
I just like his way. I find him
Drink
to
a
be
beer
cool.
at first base, drink a beer
Yes,
at second base.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And yeah, I think, I mean, the other note that I had, I wrote this outline before they clinched, but we clinch, baby, let's go.
All right, well, let's move into league news.
Yeah,
Some exciting things. I'll let you roll us through this.
sure, yeah. Well, Judge is still sitting at 60. There's a very, very good chance that this is out of date as soon as this comes out because he's going to hit another one. It's going to happen. I've been watching it. I watched the Blue Jays game the other night where they walked him in the ninth inning with third base open, and John Schneider. It was a pretty shrewd move, and it worked out. The Blue Jays win the game with the Vladimir Guerrero walk off, which was fun. What I did want to point out, and I think like everyone's talking about Judge and how great this season is, and blah blah blah, and I think that's all great. And you can argue over who you think is the home run king, and I think that's all great too. But I think it needs to be pointed out the person with the second most home runs in the league is Kyle Schwarber, who's also hitting like 230. Aaron Judge is hitting over 300, and Schwarber has 42 home runs. Judge has 60. The margin of, if you compare Judge to his peers in the offensive environment that they're in, I think that just needs to be recognized. And I just wanted to take a second to say that out loud because it is insane what he is doing right now.
Yeah. Well, that's part of why he has such a high WRC plus, which,
Right.
weights him against the offensive environment. And it's one of the highest that we've ever seen. So, yeah, it's incredible. And if you think about it, like the narrative of especially the early part of the season was the dead ball. This is a dead ball year. And of course, in a dead ball year, we see the first 60 home runs in 20 years and maybe more, hopefully more. I'm definitely rooting for him.
And it just, it only took a modern day Goliath to make it happen, but he's doing it. Um, yeah, and I kind of hope he hits it. I kind of hope it's over with. It seems like right now in this very, very minute window of time, it maybe isn't the best to be Aaron Judge. He seems to be feeling the pressure, but I'm sure he'll get it here
It's a
soon.
lot of pressure. Yeah.
In other news, Luis Castillo, big trade, Reds to Mariners this season. He is re-upped, not re-signed. He is re-upped with the Mariners. He's going to be there for at least 5 more years, $108 million. There is an option for a 6th year on that for an additional 20 something million dollars. But I think great move by the Mariners. I love, kind of what the Cardinals tried to do is trade for somebody and then lock them up. Great move. The Mariners, I am rooting for them to a certain degree this year. I like a lot of their players, and I think this is a good move.
Yeah, it's one of those contracts that I think makes a lot of sense for both sides. Castillo's been good and has shown moments of greatness, but the Mariners, it seems to have been a good spot for him, and now he has generational wealth and a
Yep.
part of a young and upcoming team. So, yeah, makes a lot of sense. And with what they traded to get him, you have to imagine there was a lot of internal and external pressure to make sure that they keep
Yeah.
him for longer than the season and a half they paid for him initially. And so here it is. Makes sense.
And I think even we were talking about this at the beginning of the season, even more of a reason if you're a Reds fan to switch your fandom to the Mariners.
Yeah.
Just go watch the Mariners. Don't
Go
support
watch
the
them.
Reds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the Marlins, you remember how I was saying they suck? The Marlins
Yeah.
suck. Sandy Alcantara is good. They are firing Don Mattingly. He will not return as manager. His final week of being a Marlin is happening right now, and then they're giving him the stinky boot, which
Yeah,
um,
I mean, he's saying is mutual, they're all saying like, he also approached about being done. I don't know. It
my
could just be saving face, but
my speculation. I'm wildly speculating on this situation, but what I think it is that Mattingly goes, "Hey, front office, what is our plan?" Because I look at the team and I look at the farm and I look at our needs and I see how you've handled the trade deadline the last couple of years, and the plan doesn't make any sense. And the front office says, "Well, to you,"
fuck you
um,
too, buddy.
and then Don said, "Get me out of here."
Yeah.
I really don't understand. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling like I need to pick a bone with the Marlins today, but I think they make no sense to me, and they should change something. And sorry, Don, but I don't know. I would not be surprised if he gets another job somewhere.
Yeah, he's had an interesting career as a manager. Part of
Yeah,
the, he's with the Dodgers and it's going great, and then he's now no longer with the Dodgers, and he's with the Marlins, and it's kind of goes like you would expect with the
yeah,
Marlins, and now I don't know. I bet he lands somewhere though.
yeah. I think so. All right. The final thing I have is, I thought we were going to have a little more fun with this. The White Sox, or really the AL Central race, and the Guardians decided that no, no, thank you. The White Sox kind of just fell off. Also, TLR is done for the year.
He's
I'm curious to
done.
see if he comes back. Very kind of strange and unfortunate way for their season to end. But the White Sox had a bad year, and Cleveland just kind of made it happen. Their pitching is good. They are winning the AL Central, but I think that they are pretty far and away the worst playoff team. Um, I just don't see how they're going to do anything. Jimenez is good. Jose Ramirez is good. Their pitching is good, not great.
Yeah.
Clase is great. Um, but yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, good for you, of course. I saw you rubbing your grubby little fingers together in celebration. I'm
Yes.
very happy for you. I
Yes.
believe I owe you a ribeye. And
That's right. The stakes were steak.
the stakes for steak. So we'll make that happen somehow. But I don't know. I wanted it to kind of be a bit more of a bloodthirsty battle, and it was kind of just like a whimper, and then the Guardians just kind of lasted longer.
I told
So
you the ghost of TLR
yeah,
haunted the dugout, and it's almost October. It's too spooky for everyone,
I
and
cannot argue.
the Guardians made it happen. No,
Yeah,
I think I agree with you. Worst playoff team, but they just have some of that. Like the pieces they do have are so good. In like Jose Ramirez might be the best, you know, one of the best hitters. He's quietly a Hall of
yeah.
Fame pace player, and uh Class
Hey,
A, they've got a good bullpen. They've got some good starters. Like
I'm a
I could,
Quaniac too. You know that.
of course, we're all Quaniacs. I mean, they are built to win a 3-game series,
Yeah,
like they could surprise someone in the first round in the
yeah,
wild card. I would be very surprised though if they are able to really do much against in a longer series against any of the other teams in the AL.
yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And that wraps up league news.
All right. So we're gonna end with another segment. This is the first year the Cardinals have won the division title since 2019.
Wow.
And while 2019 was really only a few years ago, a lot has happened in the last 3 years. We had the pandemic, and everything surrounding that has really made it feel like 2019, I don't know, it feels like it was a decade ago. But the team's not that much different. So I want to see just how much do you remember about the 2019 St. Louis Cardinals
All right.
in another edition of Who Charted.
Who charted?
So, uh, I've
Yeah,
got,
I'm
yeah,
worried. I will admit that I am not feeling confident.
I know you'd think like we are constantly pulling random ass facts, and a lot of our games are focused in like 20 years ago and whatnot. And I started thinking about the 2019 team. A thing to remember about the 2019 team is that it was a good team that we all really enjoyed pretty much end to end. And then they got beat so badly in the NLCS by the Washington Nationals
Yeah,
that it forever changed the entire perspective of the team. It's
yeah,
probably the least talked about and least like heralded NLCS visiting Cardinal team that I can think of in our entire like history as Cardinal fans.
yeah.
And
I think you're right.
it was only a few years ago.
That was a
So
really bad series.
yeah, like it just swept and never. I mean, I don't think they led in a single game, or they led in the fourth game, and that was the first game that they had led an inning, and then
Yeah,
immediately gave it up. So, yeah, rough rough series. So, but they made it to the NLCS,
Yeah.
one series away from the World Series. Uh, so here's what we're gonna do. We've done this before. Um, I've got Fangraphs pulled up, and I have the leaders in uh, batting F4, and I want to hear from you. How many people can you get in the top 5?
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got the full list here, and what I've done is uh, I'm just filtering on Fangraphs by
Yeah.
batting 2019, and then clicking on the F4 tab. So it's batting, but it is a combination of offensive and defensive WAR for position players.
Sure.
Um, so when I say batting, don't be misled. I'm looking at just total WAR
Yeah.
but we're looking at
Position
position
players.
and
Yeah.
then pitching. So, yeah, top 5. Go ahead and I don't have my sound effects.
Yeah.
We'll just go.
Okay. I feel good about my first one. I know it was obviously the first season with Paulie. Give to Mr. Goldschmidt.
Correct. He is number 4
Yeah.
at 3.4 F4.
Yeah, that was a weird year. I think everybody was like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
All right. I am going to I think Mr. Tommy Edman had a nice year that year as well.
Yes, Tommy Edman's breakout year, because he only had 349 plate appearances,
Yeah.
but he led the position players in F4 at
Yeah.
3.9.
Ooh. I believe that Harrison Bader also had an above average offensive year that year, if I can remember correctly. So I'll put him out there.
This is going to be your first miss.
Ooh.
And so 3 misses and you're out, right?
Yeah.
So Bader is coming in at number 7. He had 400 plate appearances, an overall WRC plus of 82. So you must be thinking of a different year.
I
He
must
still
be.
put up 1.7 F4 though,
Okay.
but not top 5.
All right. Oh wait. This was a season that Tyler balled out of control, right? Wait. Oh no. No, it wasn't. No, he did not have a good year that year. He had starts and stops. So I'm not going to say Tyler. Paul DeYoung did not have a good year that year. Was Dylan Carlson up? I think he was. No, he came up in 2020 because he struck out a bunch of times with the bases loaded. Hmm. Well, I know Yachty was on the team. I got to throw out Yachty, I guess.
It's going to be your next swing and a miss. Yachty
Mm-hmm.
was number 8. He had 452 plate appearances with a 88 WRC plus, coming in at a 1.2.
Was Matt Carpenter still good in 2019? I'm going to say he was. Oh, wait. That was the year where he dominated the second half. Okay, Matt Carpenter.
Still going to be a swing and a miss, and you
Ah,
are out. So you got 6, 7, and 8 with your last 3 guesses.
man.
Matt Carpenter had 492 plate appearances to a 96 WRC plus. I
Damn.
do think you're right in that his back half was great, but was so bad at the beginning. But that might have been 2018 when he really had that insane second
Yeah.
half. So yeah, he also had a 1.7, tying with Harry Bader. So I'll give you the list now.
I'm now realizing somebody who I missed big time, who I have to imagine. So this doesn't count, but just for my own sanity,
Okay.
can I throw out Colton Wong?
Yes. So
Okay.
Colton Wong was number 3 at
Okay.
3.5 F4.
God,
He had
I
he
totally
had a
spaced on that.
109 WRC plus.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so you got number 1 with Tommy Edman. Number 2 was in fact Paul DeYoung.
Really?
3.7 F4. One of the seasons, that's the year he hit 30 bombs, played a
Damn it.
good defensive short. That's the year that everyone is like, someday he'll get back to,
Yeah.
Then you just got Colton Wong at number 3. You got Goldy at 4. And then finally, you never even said his name. and that's probably for the better.
Oh, Marcel.
Marcell
Yeah.
Ozuna.
Oh, out of sight, out
Uh,
of mind.
Despite hitting 30 or 29 home runs and a 110 WRC plus, he had a 1.9 F4
Yeah.
because he was not very good out there in left field.
No, he
So,
wasn't.
all right. So that's uh, position players. So now we'll look at pitching.
Yep.
So I think just the rules. Top 5 in pitching F4.
All right. I feel good about my first guess. That's the year that Jack went full Jack. Give me Jack Flaherty.
Yep. Number 1 with a bullet. 4.7 F4.
Yeah.
196 innings. 2.75 ERA. 3.64 XFIP. Just really good season.
Great year.
10.59 K per 9.
Yeah, I'll let's see. Number 2, I'm gonna say Mr. Adam Wainwright.
Yep. Wainwright, 2.1 F4, 171 innings.
And what number was he?
Number 3.
Number 3. I think this is the year that Giovanni went off, and I'm thinking he cracked. So I'm gonna say Giovanni Gallegos.
You got it.
Yeah.
74 innings, a 11.3 K per 9,
You.
and a 2.31 ERA, an XFIP of 3.59. Total a 1.6 WAR, which just kind of shows how hard it is for relievers to really stack WAR. But yeah, he was number 4.
I believe that I'm like really struggling to remember if this is the year that Miles was healthy, and I think he was. So I'm going to say Miles Mikolas.
Correct. Opening day starter Miles Mikolas.
Yeah.
He's number 2. 184 innings.
Yep.
4.16 ERA, which is kind of what he does, but 2.4 F4.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think. I think Dakota was good that year. Did he?
Yeah, you've got
accumulate
one
enough?
more in the top 5, and this one's gonna be hard. I'll just tell you that.
Okay. Well,
That's kind of a hint, but
I said I'm just gonna say Dakota.
no, Dakota. You're close. Dakota was number 7 with a 0.9 for the year.
Okay.
So that was your first miss.
Yeah. Dakota was number 7. Wow. I am struggling more than I expected to be struggling. Who else was valuable that year? Miles, Waino, Dakota, Jack. Man, I feel very stupid right now. I mean, Ryan Helsley wasn't that good that year, was he? I think he was. Genesis, was that a good year for Cabrera? I'll say Cabrera. Genesis Cabrera. Can't be right, though. It doesn't
Swing and
feel
a miss.
good.
Cabrera
Yeah.
is down at 14. He only pitched 20 innings to a nearly 5 ERA, but 0.1 F4. So not negative.
Well, okay. Waka. Was Waka good that year?
No.
Damn it.
This Waka was number 20.
Oh.
He pitched 126 innings to a negative 0.3 F4.
Oh, ouch.
So this one's tough. I don't think I would have gotten it either. It's the really only other guy who had a really good season in the bullpen, and that is John Brebbia.
Oh, wow. Damn it. Sorry, Brebs.
Yeah,
That's my guy. I like him.
Yeah, 72 innings, 3.59 ERA. Got a little lucky, had a mid-4s XFIP.
Yeah.
Started to see that regression later, which is why he's not with the Cardinals anymore. I think he's a Giant.
He's a Giant. He's having a good year, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like Brebbia, too. So, those are the hardest guys to remember. They'll like pop up relievers who have
Yeah.
a great year and then are gone 2 years later. So
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's the 2019
Damn.
NLCS St. Louis Cardinals, the top 5 of each side. So, you know, I think maybe the 2022 Cardinals are a more memorable squad, but,
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll do this again in a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I pulled up because I was like, I'm going crazy. So I just pulled up the roster and I was not thinking about Carlos Martinez. Obviously, I wasn't thinking about Brebbia. I wasn't thinking about Andrew Miller. There are a lot of,
Uh, John Gant,
yeah.
Ponce de Leon, Hicks, you know,
Yeah.
Helsley was there, but barely pitched.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh, all right. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I definitely feel better about this team. Hopefully they don't get swept.
Hey, you heard it here first, folks. Gotta say, I agree. I hope they
Thank
don't
you.
get swept.
Thanks, pal.
So that's another edition of Who Charted. Ben, thanks for playing. You did all right.
Yeah, it felt
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And we'll be back next week. We got 1 week left of the regular season. I can't believe we're here. And then we get to sweat and weep and cry and watch playoff baseball, which is maybe my favorite thing in the universe. And so we'll be here again next week with that last regular season episode. And I guess until next week, go Cardinals.
Surfs up. Boom shakalaka.
Nice.